Can we include that the White House put pressure on us to censor the lab leak theory? That's the question Mark Zuckerberg asked in a group text with the top people at Facebook. That's the question he posed to Sheryl Sandberg, Nick Clegg, Joel Kaplan, the top people at Facebook on July 16th, 2021. Now, what prompted this group text? What prompted him to ask that question about the White House putting pressure on Facebook to censor the lab leak theory? Earlier that day, President Biden said Facebook is killing people. That's what got him talking. That's what got him texting. That's what got him asking, can we put out this statement that the White House has been putting pressure on us to censor the lab leak theory? Ms. Sandberg responded in that text message. She said, they're scapegoating us. Mr. Zuckerberg further stated, Facebook had been combating misinformation just like the White House wanted, but now there's this coordinated attack by the White House against us. Now think about it. Facebook, Mr. Zuckerberg was saying Facebook was doing exactly what the White House wanted, but it still wasn't good enough. Now, we should back up a few months. Senior White House officials, in particular the two guys testifying here today, Mr. Flaherty and Mr. Slavitt, had regular phone calls and meetings with Facebook officials. One March meeting, Mr. Flaherty said, and this is again from the internal communications we got when we subpoenaed Facebook, Mr. Flaherty said, my bias is to kick people off the platform. White House is telling a social media platform, one of the biggest ones in the world, you should kick people off your platform if they're saying things we don't like. In another one, Mr. Flaherty says he can quote, can you change the algorithm so Americans don't see news from outlets like the Daily Wire? Telling a company, the government, the White House, telling a company, change your algorithm so Americans don't see news outlets like the conservative Daily Wire. Now, Mr. Slavitt didn't want to be left out. He also got in on the censorship effort. He told Nick Clegg he was outraged that Facebook did not remove a meme. This one right here, did not remove a meme. What's interesting is Mr. Clegg countered that, quote, let me just read this quote. I think this is amazing. Mr. Clegg, British member of parliament who works at Facebook, I countered that removing content like that would represent a significant incursion into traditional boundaries of free expression in the United States. An incursion into traditional boundaries of free expression in the United States. Think about it. You got the British guy telling the American guy how the First Amendment works. And it's not just any British guy. It's the British guy who's a member of the British Parliament telling the American guy who works for the President of the United States, this is an incursion into the First Amendment, into free expression. Now, it wasn't just Facebook. On day 3, the White House sent an email to Twitter. Ms. Clark Humphrey sent the email. We've talked about this one before. This email said, January 23rd, 2021, third day of the Biden administration. Email goes to Twitter. Hey folks, wanted to flag the below tweet and I'm wondering if we can get moving on the process for having it removed ASAP. Next sentence. And then if we can keep an eye out for tweets that fall in this same genre, that would be great. White House, third day of the administration, telling Twitter, take down this tweet as soon as possible, and any other tweets like it, make sure you're taking them down too. That's probably censorship at its worst. And oh, by the way, the tweet was from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Guy turned out to be the White House's opponent in the primary election. And all Robert F. Kennedy said is, Hank Aaron's tragic death is part of a wave of suspicious deaths among elderly closely following administration of COVID vaccines. He received the Moderna vaccine on January 5th to inspire other black Americans to get the vaccine. 2 sentences, both true, and the White House is saying take it down as soon as possible from the guy who was going to run for the office they're in. So it wasn't just Facebook, it was Twitter, and they didn't stop there. YouTube as well. Let me just read another one. Again, all these are internal communications that we got, or communications we got from the social media companies, but this one sent to Mr. Flaherty. Hi, Rob. Our YouTube trust and safety team is working to finalize a new policy to remove content that could mislead people on the safety and efficacy of vaccines. We would like to preview our policy proposal for you and get any feedback you may have. Preview our policy proposal and get feedback. They're asking permission. It's gotten so bad. They're saying, hey, White House, is it okay if we do this? Will your censorship efforts allow us to have this kind of policy? Our other witness, Mr. Zwicky, he was censored by YouTube. Maybe you can blame the guys right beside you, Mr. Zwicky. They're the reason you got censored, probably. I mean, go figure. Now, here's the real kicker. The Biden White House didn't stop with social media companies. They censored books as well. So it was Facebook, it was Twitter, it was YouTube, and also Amazon. And this is from an internal Amazon communication where they say, I submitted a new do not promote class for anti-vax books. The impetus for this request is criticism from the Biden administration about books we're giving prominent placement to and should be handled urgently. So, it wasn't just social media, it was books. Books as well, this virtual book banning that they were involved in. And if you disagreed with them, your social media company, your book, your Amazon, you get censored, they come after you. Maybe the most important point, when you violate the First Amendment, public debate gets distorted. And when that happens, you get bad policy. You don't have the full debate. You don't hear. That's why we have the First Amendment. Some speech may be wrong. You may not like it, but more speech is the answer, not taking down speech. Policies get put in place when you censor and you restrict the First Amendment. Policies that kept Americans from going to church, from going to school, from going to work. Policies that forced Americans to choose between taking a vaccine or losing their job. All that happened, I think, in part because this effort, excuse me, to restrict the First Amendment in speech. And I guess maybe the final thing I would point out is, what does the Biden administration have up their sleeve in these last 6 months before the election? What are they going to try to censor now? We know the meetings have resumed. The Foreign Influence Task Force meetings with big tech, we know those have resumed. What are they up to now that's going to try to restrict speech and keep information, important information, from the American people? With that, I would yield to the ranking member for an opening statement.